skipped a beat as he picked it up, a sense of foreboding settling over him. The envelope was plain with no markings or return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a message scrawled in a hurried hand. "Justice is not served. The fight is not over." Jubril's hands shook as he read the note. He looked around, half expecting to see someone watching. Fatimah Sorrow, Episode 8, Final, A New Dawn. The days following Malam Musa's arrest were a whirlwind of emotions for Jubril and Fatimah. The community was a cacophony of opinions and feelings, but for Jubril, the sense of justice and the need to heal and rebuild their lives with Fatimah by his side took precedence over all else. Though relieved, they knew that one victory didn't mark the end of their struggle. Changing deeply ingrained attitudes in their community would be a long and arduous journey. The sun had just begun to set, casting an orange glow over the dusty streets of the village. Jubril sat on the porch, a cup of tea warming his hands as he watched the shadows lengthen. Fatimah was inside, packing her bags for her return to university. She had made up her mind, despite the protests from her family, and Jubril admired her determination. He knew that her education was important, not just for her future, but for their future together. Fatimah emerged from the house, her suitcase trailing behind her. She paused, taking a deep breath as she looked at Jubril. "Are you sure you'll be all right without me for a while?" she asked, her voice tinged with concern. Jubril smiled reassuringly. "I'll manage. Besides, we both know this is something you need to do. You've worked too hard to give up now." Fatimah nodded, though the worry didn't leave her eyes. "I just hope my parents understand someday," she said, her voice softer now. "I hate going against their wishes, but I can't let their fears hold me back." Jubril stood up and wrapped her in a gentle hug. "They'll come around," he murmured into her hair. "They just need time, and I'll be here when you need me." With a final kiss, Fatimah climbed into the waiting taxi. Jubril watched as it drove away, a mixture of pride and sadness swirling in his chest. He was proud of her strength and determination, but the house felt emptier without her presence. Fatimah's return to university became a beacon of hope, not just for her, but for others who had faced similar struggles. The university was a different world. The vibrant campus life, the buzz of academic discussions, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge were invigorating. Fatimah threw herself into her studies, determined to make the most of her time there. However, the shadow of her recent experiences lingered. Nightmares of the attack haunted her, and the pressure of her family's expectations weighed heavily on her shoulders. The next few days passed in a blur. Jubril busied himself with small tasks around the house and in the garden, trying to keep his mind occupied. He was healing, but the process was slow and often painful. Despite the physical pain, he felt a sense of peace, knowing that Malam Musa was behind bars, and that Fatimah was pursuing her dreams. One afternoon, as he was tending to the flowers that Fatimah loved so much, he noticed a small envelope tucked under the porch door. His heart skipped a beat as he picked it up, a sense of foreboding settling over him. The envelope was plain with no markings or return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a message scrawled in a hurried hand. "Justice is not served. The fight is not over." Jubril's hands shook as he read the note. He looked around, half expecting to see someone watching him, but the street was quiet. He went inside, locking the door behind him, and sat at the kitchen table staring at the note. Who could have sent this, he wondered. Was it a supporter of Malam Musa, or perhaps someone else with a grudge against him? His mind raced with possibilities, each one more troubling than the last. He decided not to tell Fatimah immediately. She had enough on her plate and he didn't want to distract her from her studies. Instead, he resolved to be more vigilant and to keep an eye out for anything unusual. A week later, as Jubril was beginning to regain some of his strength, there was a knock on the door. He opened it to find an unfamiliar face, a man in his mid-40s with a stern expression and a neat suit. "Good afternoon. My name is Inspector Ibrahim," the man said, flashing a badge. "I need to speak with you about Malam Musa." Jubril's heart sank. "What about him?" he asked, stepping aside to let the inspector in. Ibrahim walked into the living room, taking a seat. There have been some developments in his case. It seems that he has some powerful friends who are trying to get him released. There are rumors of bribes and political pressure. Jubril felt a cold knot form in his stomach. But he was arrested. Surely the evidence against him is strong enough to keep him in jail. Ibrahim nodded. It is, but sometimes justice can be swayed by those with enough influence and resources. I wanted to warn you to be vigilant. If he gets out, he may try to retaliate. The inspector's words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken threats. Jubril felt a wave of nausea. The idea of Malam Musa being free again was terrifying. Thank you for the warning, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. After the inspector left, Jubril sat in silence, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He needed to tell Fatimah, but he couldn't bring himself to do it over the phone. He would wait until she came home for the weekend. In the meantime, he would stay alert and take any precautions necessary to protect himself and their home. When Fatimah returned home that weekend, Jubril tried to hide his anxiety, but she sensed something was wrong almost immediately. Jubril, what's going on? She asked, setting her bags down and crossing her arms. He took a deep breath and handed her the note he had found. I didn't want to worry you, but I think you need to see this. Fatimah read the note, her eyes widening. Who could have sent this? I don't know, Jubril admitted, but there's more. He told her about Inspector Ibrahim's visit and the possibility of Malam Musa being released. Fatimah's face paled, and she sat down heavily on the couch. This can't be happening. He can't be allowed to go free. We need to be prepared, Jubril said, sitting beside her and taking her hand. We need to stay strong and keep fighting, just like we promised each other. Fatimah nodded, her expression hardening with resolve. You're right. We can't let fear control us. We need to stand up and fight back. The following weeks were tense. Fatimah threw herself into her studies, while Jubril focused on his recovery and keeping their homes secure. They spoke with Inspector Ibrahim regularly, updating him on any suspicious activity. One evening, as they were having dinner, there was a loud knock on the door. Jubril and Fatimah exchanged a worried glance before he got up to answer it. To their surprise, it was Mrs. Danjuma, her face flushed with anger. Fatimah, how could you go back to university when your husband needs you? She demanded, pushing past Jubril and storming into the living room. Mom, please, Jubril began, but Fatimah stood up, her eyes blazing. I went back because I need to finish my education, she said firmly. Jubril supports me, and that's what matters. Mrs. Danjuma glared at them both. Your place is with your husband, Fatimah, not in some classroom. With all due respect, Mum, this is our decision, Jubril said, his voice calm but resolute. We appreciate your concern, but we need to do what's best for us. Mrs. Danjuma huffed and turned on her heel, leaving as abruptly as she had arrived. Fatimah sank back into her seat, her hands trembling. That was harder than I thought it would be, she admitted. Jubril took her hands in his. You're doing the right thing, Fatimah. We have to stand strong, no matter what. One afternoon, as Jubril was working in the garden, he noticed a familiar figure standing at the edge of the yard. It was Malam Bada, Fatimah's father. He looked older and more haggard than Jubril remembered. Malam Bada, Jubril greeted cautiously. What brings you here? Malam Bada sighed heavily. I came to talk, Jubril. I want to understand why Fatimah is so determined to continue her studies. Jubril gestured for him to sit on the porch. She's always been passionate about her education. She believes it's the key to a better future for us and for our children. Malam Bada nodded slowly. I never understood that. I always thought it was more important for her to stay close to family. Family is important, Jubril agreed. But so is her independence and her dreams. She's trying to build a better life for all of us. They sat in silence for a while, the tension between them easing slightly. Finally, Malam Bada stood up. I'll try to talk to her mother, he said gruffly. Maybe we can find some common ground. Jubril watched him leave, a flicker of hope sparking in his heart. It wasn't a resolution, but it was a start. A few days later, Jubril received an unexpected visit from a young woman named Aisha. She introduced herself as a journalist who had been following Malam Musa's case closely. I think there's more to this story than meets the eye, Aisha said, her eyes bright with determination. I believe Malam Musa has connections that go deeper than we realize. Jubril listened intently as she outlined her findings. I think you and Fatima are in danger, she concluded. If he gets out, he won't stop until he has his revenge. The gravity of her words hit Jubril hard. What can we do? Aisha leaned forward. I want to help. I have contacts in the media and the legal system. If we can expose his connections and put public pressure on the authorities, we might be able to keep him behind bars. Jubril felt a glimmer of hope. Thank you, Aisha. We need all the help we can get. As she left, Jubril felt a renewed sense of determination. They had an ally now, someone who could help them fight back against the darkness that threatened to engulf their lives. A month later, just as things seemed to be settling down, Jubril received another ominous letter. This time it was more direct. You may have won a battle, but the war is far from over. Watch your back. The threat sent a chill down his spine, but he refused to let fear take hold. Instead, he contacted Aisha and Inspector Ibrahim, sharing the latest development. We need to be even more vigilant, Ibrahim warned, but don't lose hope. We're getting closer to uncovering the full extent of Musa's network. With Aisha's help, they began to dig deeper into Musa's connections, uncovering a web of corruption and influence that reached far beyond their small village. Fatima threw herself into her studies with renewed vigor, inspired by Jubril's encouragement and Aisha's determination. Despite the heightened tensions, life went on. She formed a network of friends and allies who shared her passion for change. A support group for women who wanted to pursue their education despite opposition, and her story inspired many. Together they organized events, raised awareness, and advocated for justice and equality. As weeks turned into months, Fatima excelled in her studies. She completed her exams with distinction, her focus and determination never wavering. She also began to speak out more, using her voice to raise awareness about their plight and the dangers they still faced. One day, as she was walking back to her dorm, she received a call from Aisha. Fatima, we have a breakthrough. We found evidence that could expose Musa's entire operation. Fatima's heart raced with excitement. That's amazing. What do we do next? We need to go public, Aisha said. If we can get this story out, it will put immense pressure on the authorities to keep him behind bars. Fatima agreed, and together they worked on preparing the story, gathering all the evidence they had collected. The day the story broke, it sent shockwaves through the community and beyond. The media coverage was extensive, and the public outcry was overwhelming. People were demanding justice, not just for Jubril and Fatima, but for all the victims of Musa's cruelty and corruption. The authorities were forced to act. Investigations were launched, and several high-ranking officials were implicated. The pressure became too great, and Musa's attempts to secure his release were thwarted. Jubril and Fatima watched the news with a mixture of relief and disbelief. It felt like a victory, but they knew the fight wasn't over. There would always be new challenges, new battles to face. In the weeks that followed, the sense of purpose in the community only grew stronger. The group that Aisha had helped form was becoming a cornerstone for change. Meetings were held more frequently, each one drawing more attendees as the message of unity and tolerance began to spread. Jubril and Fatima were at the heart of this movement, their story inspiring others to join the cause. One day, as Jubril was finishing his afternoon exercises, part of his rehabilitation routine, he heard a knock at the door. Wiping the sweat from his brow, he made his way to the entrance. Standing there was Al-Haji Suleiman, a respected elder in the community and someone who had initially opposed the changes they were advocating. Al-Haji Suleiman, Jubril greeted, his surprise evident. Please come in. Al-Haji Suleiman stepped inside, his demeanor reserved but respectful. Jubril, I came to speak with you. I have seen the changes you and Fatima are trying to bring about. At first I was skeptical, but I've come to realize that our community does need to change. Jubril felt a surge of hope. I'm glad to hear that, Al-Haji. We're trying our best to promote understanding and peace. The elder nodded. I want to help. Our community respects me, and if they see that I support this movement, perhaps it will encourage others to join as well. Jubril's heart swelled with gratitude. Thank you, Al-Haji. Your support means a lot to us. As the days turned into weeks, more and more prominent figures in the community began to show their support. The tide was turning, but there were still undercurrents of resistance. Some people remained steadfast in their old beliefs, unwilling to embrace the change. One evening, Fatima returned home from the university, her face pale and strained. Jubril immediately sensed something was wrong. "You are back early, Fatima. What happened?" Jubril asked, his concern evident. Fatima nodded, setting her books down on the table. "There was an incident at the university," she said, her voice tense. "What happened?" Jubril asked, feeling a knot of worry form in his stomach. "There was a protest," Fatima replied. "Some of the students were angry about Malam Musa's arrest and subsequent sentence to prison. They were saying it was unjust, that he was just expressing his beliefs. They were shouting threats not just at me, but at anyone who supports us." Jubril felt a surge of anger. "Expressing his beliefs? He tried to kill us." "I know," Fatima said, sitting down beside him. "But there are still people who support him, who believe in his views. It's going to be a long fight, Jubril." Jubril felt a familiar knot of fear tighten in his stomach. He took a deep breath, trying to calm himself. "We'll get through this together," he said. "Did they hurt you?" Fatima shook her head. "No, but it was close. The university authorities managed to disperse the crowd before things escalated further." Jubril sat beside her, taking her hand in his. "We knew this wouldn't be easy, but we can't let them intimidate us. We're fighting for something bigger than ourselves." Fatima nodded, her resolve returning, and her eyes filled with determination. "I know, and I won't back down. We can't afford to." In the days that followed, Jubril and Fatima faced numerous challenges. The protest at the university had been just the beginning. There were threats, both overt and subtle, from those who supported Malam Musa, but there were also signs of hope. A small but growing number of people were beginning to speak out against the hatred and intolerance that had plagued the community for so long. As the days passed, the tension in the community seemed to reach a boiling point. The supporters of Malam Musa were becoming more aggressive, their actions more desperate. It was clear that they felt their influence slipping away, and they were willing to do whatever it took to regain control. One night, as Jubril and Fatima were preparing for bed, they heard a loud noise outside. It sounded like a car engine revving, followed by the screech of tires. Jubril's heart raced as he looked out the window. He saw a group of men gathered near their gate, their faces obscured by shadows. "Fatima, stay here," Jubril said, his voice tense. He grabbed his phone and dialed the police, hoping they would arrive in time. He stepped outside, his heart pounding. "What do you want?" he called out, trying to keep his voice steady. One of the men stepped forward. "We want you to stop this nonsense," he said, his voice filled with menace. "You're tearing this community apart with your talk of change." Jubril stood his ground. "We are trying to build a better future for everyone. Violence and hatred have no place here." The man sneered. "That's where you're wrong. This is our community and we won't let you destroy it." Before Jubril could respond, the sound of police sirens filled the air. The men scattered, disappearing into the night. Jubril let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding as the police arrived, their presence a welcome relief. "Are you all right, sir?" one of the officers asked. Jubril nodded. "We're fine, thanks to you." As the police took their statements and assured them of increased patrols in the area, Jubril felt a mix of relief and frustration. The threats were becoming more serious, and he knew they couldn't afford to let their guard down. The next morning, Fatima and Jubril attended a community meeting, determined to address the growing hostility. The room was filled with anxious faces, people looking to them for guidance and reassurance. Jubril stood up, his voice calm but firm. "We cannot let fear dictate our actions. The threats against us are real, but so is our resolve. We are fighting for a future where everyone is treated with respect and dignity. We cannot back down now." Fatima stood beside him, her voice strong. "We knew this wouldn't be easy, but we are not alone. Look around you. We have the support of so many. Together we can stand against the forces of hatred and intolerance." The crowd erupted in applause, their spirits lifted by Jubril and Fatima's words. The meeting ended with a renewed sense of purpose, a commitment to continue the fight for change. In the weeks that followed, Jubril and Fatima took extra precautions, but they did not let the threats stop them. They continued their work, organizing more events, reaching out to more people, and spreading their message of unity and peace. One day, Jubril received a call from an unexpected source. It was Musa's brother Ahmed. Jubril knew that Ahmed had always been more moderate than his brother, but he was still surprised by the call. "Jubril, I need to speak with you," Ahmed said, his voice tense. "Of course," Jubril replied. "When and where?" They agreed to meet at a local cafe. Jubril arrived early, his mind racing with possibilities. When Ahmed walked in, he looked weary, as if the weight of the world was on his shoulders. "Thank you for meeting me," Ahmed said, sitting down. Jubril nodded. "What can I do for you, Ahmed?" Ahmed took a deep breath. "I don't agree with what my brother did. I never have. But his arrest has caused a lot of tension in our family. There are those who still support him and they're angry. I want to help, but I don't know how." Jubril listened, feeling a glimmer of hope. "Your support could make a big difference, Ahmed. If you speak out against what your brother did, it could help to change minds." Ahmed nodded slowly. "I want to help, but I'm worried about the backlash." Jubril reached out, placing a hand on Ahmed's arm. "We all are, but standing up for what's right is never easy. You're not alone in this." Ahmed sighed. "I'll think about it. I just hope it's not too late." As they parted ways, Jubril felt a renewed sense of hope. If even someone from Musa's family could see the need for change, then perhaps there was a chance for real progress. That evening, Jubril shared the conversation with Fatimah. She listened carefully, her eyes thoughtful. "If Ahmed speaks out, it could be a turning point," she said. "But we need to be prepared for the backlash." Jubril nodded. "We'll take it one step at a time, but we have to keep moving forward." The next day, Ahmed made his decision. He stood before a packed community meeting and spoke out against his brother's actions. His voice shook, but his message was clear. Hatred and violence had no place in their community. The reaction was mixed, but the impact was undeniable. It was a powerful moment, a sign that change was possible. In the weeks that followed, the community began to heal. The threats became less frequent, the protests dwindled. There were still challenges, but there was also a growing sense of hope. Jubril and Fatimah continued their work, supported by a community that was slowly but surely embracing the message of peace and unity. As the weeks turned into months, the community group grew stronger. They held meetings and workshops, organized events, and reached out to those who were struggling. Slowly but surely, they began to see changes. Attitudes were shifting, and there was a growing sense of unity and purpose. Jubril and Fatimah became leaders in this movement, using their story to inspire others. They invited speakers to educate the community about the dangers of extremism and the importance of tolerance and understanding. It was slow work, often frustrating, but they were making progress. They continued to lead by example, their love and determination a beacon of hope for others. They faced each new challenge with courage and resilience, knowing that they were building a better future, not just for themselves, but for everyone. In the quiet town that had once been divided by fear and hatred, a new era of understanding and acceptance had dawned. Through the bravery and perseverance of Jubril and Fatimah, a community had learned to embrace change and champion the rights of all its members, especially women seeking education and empowerment. Years had passed since the days of turmoil and struggle for Jubril and Fatimah. The once contentious community had transformed into a place of acceptance and understanding, largely due to their resilience and unwavering commitment to change. Fatimah's determination to complete her education, despite numerous obstacles, had become a beacon of hope for many. Her journey inspired countless women to pursue their dreams, regardless of societal pressures. The university, once a battleground for ideological conflicts, had become a symbol of progress and enlightenment. Jubril, having fully recovered from his injuries, had thrown himself into community work. He and Fatimah had founded an organization dedicated to promoting tolerance, education, and women's rights. Their efforts bore fruit as the community slowly but steadily embraced new ideas and values. One bright afternoon, a ceremony was held at the university to honor those who had contributed to this positive change. The campus was abuzz with excitement, and the air was filled with a sense of celebration. Banners adorned the buildings, and a large stage had been set up in the main courtyard. Jubril and Fatimah stood at the forefront of the crowd, their hands intertwined. They looked around, seeing the faces of so many people who had supported them and joined their cause. Aisha, their steadfast friend, stood beside them, her eyes shining with pride. The university chancellor took the stage and addressed the crowd. "Today, we celebrate a remarkable journey of transformation," she began. "A journey led by two extraordinary individuals whose courage and determination have brought about lasting change in our community." She gestured for Jubril and Fatimah to join her on the stage. The crowd erupted into applause as they stepped forward, their hearts swelling with gratitude and humility. "Fatimah and Jubril," the chancellor continued, "your story has touched us all. Your resilience in the face of adversity and your unwavering commitment to justice have inspired us to become better, more compassionate people. It is because of you that our community has learned the true meaning of tolerance and acceptance." She handed them a plaque inscribed with the words, "For bravery and dedication to change." Jubril and Fatimah accepted it together, their hands still clasped, their eyes meeting in a moment of shared triumph. Fatimah stepped forward to speak, her voice strong and clear. "This is not just our victory," she said, addressing the crowd. "It belongs to everyone who believed in the possibility of change, who stood with us, who fought for a better future. We have shown that through unity and determination, we can overcome even the most deeply rooted prejudices." Jubril took his turn, his voice filled with emotion. "We have faced many challenges, but we have emerged stronger and more united. Let this be a reminder that every step toward progress, no matter how small, is a step worth taking. Let us continue to support and uplift each other, for our journey is far from over." The ceremony concluded with a standing ovation, the sound of applause echoing through the courtyard. Jubril and Fatimah descended from the stage, surrounded by friends and supporters who congratulated them and expressed their gratitude. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the campus, Jubril and Fatimah found a quiet spot to reflect on the day's events. They sat on a bench, watching the vibrant colors of the sky. "We did it," Fatimah said softly, leaning her head on Jubril's shoulder. "We did," Jubril agreed, his arm around her. "And we did it together." Fatimah looked up at him, her eyes filled with love and determination. "This is just the beginning. There is still so much more we can do." Jubril nodded, a smile spreading across his face. "Yes, there is. And as long as we're together, we can achieve anything." Their journey had been long and arduous, filled with pain and triumphs, but through it all, they had remained steadfast in their love for each other and their belief in a better future. Their legacy of resilience and change would live on, inspiring generations to come. As they sat together, watching the twilight sky, they knew that their fight for justice and equality was far from over. But with each other's support and the strength of their community behind them, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. And so, hand in hand, they looked forward to the future with hope and determination, knowing that together they could build a world where everyone was free to live their lives with dignity and respect. Their story became a testament to the power of love, resilience, and the unwavering belief in a better tomorrow. It reminded everyone that even in the face of great adversity, it is possible to forge a path to a brighter future. And as the sun set on a day of celebration, the legacy of Jubril and Fatimah continued to inspire, guiding their community toward a more just and inclusive world. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, they felt a sense of peace, knowing that they had the strength and courage to face whatever challenges the new dawn would bring. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, share, like and press the notification button for more interesting and captivating stories. See you in the next story.